WoodlawnFM.com. It's Woodlawn CEO John Alley.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
We're doing great today.
Good.
Had our board meeting yesterday, so this is kind of our monthly update to the community of what we did at the board meeting. Wasn't a very long meeting, which is a good thing. So,
Yeah.
Got a lot of stuff done in a very short period of time. One of the main things we talked about yesterday is this. They're kind of celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Compassionate Care Clinic here in town.
Okay.
And Woodlawn's been an integral part of that from the very beginning. We've kind of supported them. So Mary Kay, who's the executive director, comes in and every year gives an annual report to the hospital of what the clinic's done and where they're going, what their vision is, and then we financially support them. So the board did vote again yesterday to continue supporting them financially for the next year. So we pick up maybe 45% of their operating cost is covered by the hospital. But it's a win-win for everybody. The clinic has just done a fantastic job in the community. And, the vision when it was first formed was trying to preventative medicine.
Right.
And we've got there. So, the hospital has seen less really sick people come into the ER because they've been able to get into the clinic. They get seen. So they get, their diabetic medicine, their heart medicine. So we're not seeing the seriously ill people that we used to. So just a great working relationship we have with them. And I think the community has really benefited from that. And
Yes.
Mary and her staff does an absolute excellent job there serving those folks who are either uninsured or underinsured. So we were pleased to get the report and look forward to another happy year with them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The other thing we did yesterday, board's meeting, we new HR director started Monday, so did his introduction to the board. His name's Mark Layton, and has just years and years of HR experience, over 20 years of that, with the majority of that in healthcare. So really looking forward to new ideas that he can bring into the hospital, because anytime you make a change, you always have these new ideas.
Yeah.
And my philosophy has always been there's always a better way to do what we do. We just don't know what it is yet.
Yep.
So looking forward to him coming in and saying, hey, why are you doing it this way? And let's try this. And, it's kind of exciting. Bring some excitement back in. If HR can be exciting, we're looking for that to happen now, is maybe some changes in how we do things, procedures, and I think it's going to be best for the hospital. So Mark's excited to be here, and we're excited to have him. So it was nice getting him to introduce to the board yesterday so they can kind of put a name and a face together.
Oh, yeah, that always helps out.
We finally then got into the financials for August, and for our gross revenue for the month, we had about $12.2 million that we bill. Unfortunately, in healthcare, we write off about 60% of that. So our deductions from revenues was $7.8 million. So that kind of left us $4.4 million cash to play with for the month. And we spent $5.1. So do the math, that's not a good month. So we did have an operating loss for the month of right around $436,000. And as we look at that, there's a lot of factors. We try to figure out why is that happening. Because our goal was this year, as we progress through to the end of the year, actually I wind up with an operating profit. And unfortunately, we've got about 13 individuals we're self-funded on our health insurance plan that has contributed. We're $1.3 million over budget in health benefits.
Really?
And we can trace that back to, so we've had some very sick either in staff or family members, which is unfortunate. So not a lot we can do about that. So it kind of is nice that we can identify where we're out of whack on our budget and say, okay, it's outside our control. That's the one thing we just cannot control is, those health insurance benefits. So what we're hoping for is everybody get healthy quick, and as, next year and as we move future years, not kind of see this again. But it's been a fairly dramatic increase in health insurance, and unfortunately it's at the, pain of our staff and their family members. And so we're hoping those folks get feeling better, and we can kind of see a little reduction in that health insurance benefits that we're paying. Other than that, we talked a little bit about what we're going to do next month. We're starting the budget process, so we will be bringing to the board some preliminary numbers of what we think next year is going to be. And that includes not only our operational income, but our capital equipment. And that's probably the hard part, because you're trying to go through the building and doing best guess what you think you might need to replace the next year. And with us being paid by the government, the Medicare CMS requires that we do a 3-year capital budget. So we not only got to predict what we think we're going to replace in 20, we got to go to 2021 and 2022. So that gets interesting as you start looking at your crystal ball and figuring out, okay, what do we think is going to break, and what year is it going to be in? And then once we determine, then we got to determine which quarter it's in. So that's a fairly long, drawn-out process to do that capital budget. And, of course, some things get there this year and next year. We just can't meet all the demands. So gets frustrating for staff. They say, well, I requested that last year. I said, well, you can request it again next year. We'll see if we can get it in there. But we kind of prioritize, and whatever's the most important thing for the hospital, that's where the money goes that year, and we kind of work through the list then as the funds become available. So it's an interesting process. It takes several months to put the budget together for the hospital, and get all the directors, all the staffs involved giving their input, and so present that final budget to the board October, November. Give them a couple months to look at it, and then look for their approval in December, ready to go then on January 1st.
Okay.
So it was pretty well our board meeting. Like I said, fairly short board meeting yesterday. Got a lot accomplished in a short period of time. And, knowing that as we move forward through the year, we'll see more. Those meetings will extend a little bit as we bring more stuff to them.
Yeah, it's always nice to have a short meeting when you know that some of the rest of them are going to be longer
Especially when
than
it's a
normal.
Nice day, too. You can kind of get out a little sooner. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Weather's been nice, which has helped out. And I'm sure you guys are kind of seeing that in the emergency room department. The weather's been nice.
We get some of those seasonal injuries, from the folks that are out doing the lawn clearing and stuff like that. See, more of the cuts and scrapes that we don't see during the winter months when they're not outside doing the yard work.
Yeah, yeah. And some of the roofing self-roofers.
We have some folks that test gravity every now and then, and I can guarantee you it still works. We've had some folks take some tumbles this year, so they're just wanting to verify gravity works, and it does. So, and unfortunately, they have to come see us when that happens. So we just, tell folks, just be careful, be safe on the roofs, and we've all done it. You get up there and say, "Oh, I don't really need a safety rope, I'll be fine."
Right.
And there's a couple times I remember I thought that, and I proved that gravity works also. So we all do it. So just we ask, just be careful, think what you're doing. We don't mind seeing you, but we don't like seeing you by accident. So just come visit us.
Exactly. You were talking about staff a little bit earlier. How's the staffing looking over there? You guys doing good?
Doing pretty good right now. It's one of those. It's again webs, and we get openings and we get filled. Right now, I think we're pretty well staffed. We're constantly, one of my jobs is to predict the future, and looking for physicians is my job, is trying to recruit physicians to come to the community. And I know in the next 3 to 5 years, I probably got 2 or 3 that's going to be thinking about retirement. And that seems a long way off until you're trying to recruit for a physician.
Right.
And it takes sometimes 2 to 4 years to get a physician recruited to come to a community. So I'm starting to look at some of those positions that I think will be open in the next 3 to 4 years, and putting the feelers out now, going to some of the students that are in medical school right now, if we can get them early and commit to come to work for us when they graduate and come out as doctors. So that's kind of the fun part. And it's just every year a little more difficult. When I talk to a lot of the kids, I speak to some of them at Indiana State. Got a fairly nice medical program down there.
Yeah.
And everybody, their mom and dad have been a family practice physician. They say, I don't want to do that. Mom and dad work 7 days a week, 20 hours a day, always on call, middle of the night. So they don't want to go into that family practice. I accuse them all having what's called, ologist disease. They want to be somethingologist. They work 4 days a week, Monday, 8 to 4, no weekends, no call, and they make 2 times the money that their parents did of being a family practice. So we're seeing that's being a kind of a dying art now, is students wanting to go into family practice. It takes a special physician to want to do that. So we try to find those kids that say, I really want to do that, and start recruiting them. Problem is, I'm recruiting same as 5,000 other people.
Right.
We're all trying to recruit that same 1 or 2 physicians. And it's hard for me to compete with the big cities when they say, I can go into a group of 20 physicians and do this and that as a family practice, not in a rural setting. So it's a challenge, but it's fun. And, when we usually find those physicians that say, I really want to come to a rural community, they do quite well because they're really committed to this type of lifestyle. And it's a broad-based medicine. When you look at family practice in a rural setting, they got to do everything. They don't have 5 people they can hand off things to. So it's kind of nice to talk to those, the kids that have that vision, say, I really want to do that. They're rare, hard to find, but we're always looking.
Sometimes that rare gem is the best gem that
it
you
is
can
the
get
best
to.
gem because they're usually committed into the rural communities, and their roots maybe even being a farm background where and they like that dealing with that type of the stuff they see, and they see everything in their office. And lots of times folks will go to their family practice before they come to the ER, so they'll see broken bones in the office, they see severe cuts, and they take care of it. So that's the kind of physician we're looking for to bring to our community, and we know they're going to be happy here.
I know over the last few months you've kind of talked about rural classification for Woodlawn. How's that coming along?
Yeah, we're waiting now for our survey. So we think we've got all of our paperwork done. That's all been accepted. So now the next step is basically they'll send what's called a compliance team who will come out and inspect all of our physician offices to ensure that we're in compliance with the rules and regulations to become a rural health clinic. Once that team gets done, they'll give us kind of our work list, or we call it our cheat sheet. Say you need to fix this, and this. Then they'll give us usually a few weeks to fix it. Then they come back for their official. So it's kind of nice. They kind of come in and preliminary say, you need to fix all this stuff before we come back. So we're going to schedule that. Hopefully they'll be in here October, November to do that preliminary. Get the fixes done that we need. Then they'll come back in hopefully for the end of the year and say, okay, now you're certified, and we'll start January 1 or shortly thereafter with the rural health clinics. And what it does, it doesn't change the patient's perspective or the physicians. It's just a payment mechanism that the federal government says because you're in a rural setting, we know that it's harder to recruit. You have additional costs that might not be in an urban setting. So for that, they will actually give us a little bit of more payment on our bills. So we're looking at that. Again, we try to find ways to make that positive bottom line, and this is going to be one of those as we move forward. 2020, 2021 should make a fairly significant difference in our ability to generate a positive bottom line.
Okay. I know you guys don't always get it a whole lot out there. Any new equipment in the last month or so?
Not in the last month or so, and that's part of that capital project that we're working on now. So, the directors are going through, and what we like for them to look at is if you've got a piece of equipment that's starting to get what we call end of life, and the manufacturers will tell us, we'll support this, 5 years, and then 2 years after that. Once you get into that period, then they no longer will get repair parts for it. So that's the ones we concentrate on first. What do we got that's getting close to that end of life that we know if it breaks, we can't get a replacement part for? So that's our first go-around on our capital budget. Right now, we've got a couple pieces of equipment we're looking at. We were talking yesterday with my director of maintenance. The boilers that are in our building are the original boilers.
Oh,
and they're not young boilers anymore.
No.
So, we're thinking we're probably going to have what's called a tube replacement. I think the jacket's still good, but the internal heat tubes is what burns out. So he's thinking, we had an inspection the other day, and he said, I'm going to have to come talk to you about some tube replacement, which is nice that we don't have to replace the complete boiler, but it's still fairly expensive to go in and take all the heat exchanger tubes out of it and put all new ones in. But at least we can keep the basic boiler going. We have two, so we always have one for a backup. So what we would do, the one that seems to be getting a little more failure to it, that'd be the one we do, and then maybe next year we'll look at replacing the tubes in the other boiler. So it's just kind of one of those things where you just got to do that preventative maintenance, and usually if you keep ahead of that, it's much cheaper to maintain than it is to replace. And
yes.
So right now we're looking at that as being our main thing. Maybe next year, the chilling towers, which we use for air conditioning.
Yep.
And those are the ones we have such a small window on because you got to do it before the freeze, but you can't do it so early in the year that you've lost your air conditioning. So, that's going to be probably another one. I think next month he's going to go to the board and just kind of give an update where we're at and what's coming as far as looking at the chiller and looking at maybe some of the tube replacement in the boiler. So we like for the board to be aware of what we're doing because those are fairly major expenditures. So they're aware of it, and there's not this surprise all of a sudden say, what's this? So I think that'll probably be our next month's meeting, a little bit of talking about some infrastructure within the maintenance department as far as both heating and cooling for the building.
Okay. Anything else exciting?
That was pretty well it for the meeting.
Okay, well, thank you very much for stopping by, chit-chatting with us.
My pleasure to be here.
I'm glad you were able to stop by, and I look forward to it next month.
We'll do this again next month.
Yep. I think we got through the first one, and that's always the
nobody was hurt. We made it through this first one. So
yes, yeah, we don't have to take a trip to Woodlawn now after our interview here with Woodlawn CEO John Alley. Thank you very much again for stopping by WROI 92.1 Giant FM.
Thank you.
Thank you.